Hi, I'm Susan Ashbrook and you're watching Equine VIP. We're in Paso Robles, California, shooting one of the largest cutting horse competitions in the country. And we're going to be talking to Morgan Cromer. Morgan won the whole gosh darn thing last year and she's got plans to do it again this year. Let's go talk to Morgan and hear what she has to say. So Morgan, thanks so much for being an Equine VIP and taking the time to talk to us today.
You bet.
Now, you're one of the top cutting riders in the country, but I understand that that's not how you got your start in riding.
No, it's not. My mom actually trained hunter jumpers, and I started riding pony hunters when I was about 3, so very young.
3? My God, you could hardly walk.
Yeah. My mom said that I wanted to go to my first show when I was 2 years old. So, yeah.
So how did you decide to switch to cutting?
We had some really good friends just that lived about 10 minutes from us that are still in this business, the Fandinos, who had horses and needed some help from time to time, and my brother and I would go help them. And when I was about 10 or 11, they let me show my first cutting horse, and then I didn't want to ride hunters anymore. My mom didn't like that, but she's good with it now.
Okay, good. I'd love if you take a minute and tell our viewers what it is exactly, what we're going to be seeing you do today.
Well, the cutting horse was originated on the ranch, and it was before they had fences between all the ranches, they would run all the cattle together, and then they'd get all the cows together, and all the cowboys would separate their cattle out, and most of the time they had a horse that they called their cutting horse that they would do that on. That was kind of the premier horse, and they'd kind of bring them to show them off, and that's where it originated. And now we're, much more, rules and everything else about it, but that's where it started. And now we just, you start out with a herd, and you go in there and you take your one. A lot of times we choose the one, but that's really complicated. But as you go forward, you choose one cow and you keep it away from the herd, and you have 2.5 minutes to cut 2 or 3 cows, depending upon how your run feels.
Now I saw today that there were 5 judges. Not 1, 5 judges. What are they judging you on besides the clock and those 3?
There's a whole rule system, and you start with a point on each judge. Would be you start with 70. And you can either go to 80 or you can go to 60, and depending upon what you do throughout your run.
Now, you won big time last year, so is the pressure on you this year?
It is and it isn't. Last year I hadn't done real well all year. I hadn't been real established. I'd only been out on my own for a while, and so now I feel a little more established and a little more secure, and I feel like I don't have to go prove anything, but yeah, I mean, you want to do good, especially, close to home and where you did good last year.
That's right. Now, you mentioned that you have 20 horses here at this competition, which is like mind-boggling, but how does your day start? What's your routine? And in between all that, you're showing.
Right. Well, we usually practice the horses a little bit, kind of like I showed you earlier, over in the practice pen.
Yes, yeah.
Before we show them, and especially
get them tuned up.
Yeah, get them tuned up, especially at these larger events. And so usually we start about 4:30, somewhere around that time, feeding horses, and get going, and then we start practicing. The practice pens usually open at 6, and so we usually have 2 or 3 horses ready to work by then, if not more. And we just kind of go throughout the day with the schedule of where the horses draw and everything else. And there's a lot of them, but I showed, I believe, 9 of them, and then some of my non-professionals and amateurs will show the rest of them.
Now, when I was talking to you a little earlier today, you pointed out a couple of the riders that you compete against, and I mean, they've won some serious money. What kind of money is involved in cutting horses?
Well, the largest paying event every year is the National Futurity, which is in Fort Worth, and that'll be starting November 22nd, I believe. And I have 2 horses to go there. You can only show 2, and they can never have been showed before.
Oh, wow.
And they're 3-year-old horses. And so none of the horses here will be shown there. So they'll be all horses that haven't been shown. and that pays $250,000 to win that.
Wow. But the road to get there?
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge. But
it sounds easy, but
yeah,
no.
There's about 600 to 700 entered in that.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, the last thing I always like to ask my equine VIPs is what kind of products you use, because I know that, you know, there's so many products out there, and I always like to hear from professionals what they're using, and I know you have some sponsors too, and we'd love to hear, you know, anything that you want to talk about. And
yeah, well, we've got so many good products nowadays, it's hard to tell which one works the best. You know, I think it's whatever works for you the best. I have a feed company named Harlan Feed, and they're up in Northern California, and they do a great job on blending some really high quality hay, and I feed cubes, and that has been really good for us because we can travel and take enough with us. So we don't have we don't have to change our diets on our horses when we go, and they've made up a blend of oat and alfalfa cube for me so that they don't always stay on the alfalfa, and you know, it's just really nice to have somebody working with you on that. And then Ken Ray Saddlery is another one of my sponsors. He builds all his saddles himself and custom fits them to you, and that's, you know, been really, really nice. But I mean, there's so many, you know, high quality products, you know, out there nowadays. Like I said, that you know, another one of our big sponsors at these deals is EQ Solutions, and they make a great body wash for our horses. And you know, I mean, there is a lot out there, but you know, you gotta have the people behind you as well. You know, it's such a big thing. You know, your help and your sponsors, and you know, all of that is huge.
Well, thanks so much for your time. I know you're getting ready to go. You're going to go watch the cows and decide which ones you're going to cut, right?
Yeah, that's a whole nother part of it.
It's a whole nother part of it.
Yeah.
Well, we'll catch you later, and thanks again for being on Equine VIP.
Thank you.